I actually have not sustained any injuries as a result of my training. The only reason I got injured in my entire endurance career is because of other things. Hi, my name is Noelle and welcome back to my channel. Today we are going to talk about injuries because someone asked me to talk about injuries that broke and made me. Now I have been in some cycling mishaps, and I guess we're not going to talk about those kinds of injuries. Maybe we could. The only major cycling injury that I've sustained is a dislocated elbow because I fell sideways at a very low speed, and I tried to stop myself from falling by putting my arm out, and this elbow just bent the wrong way. And that took me out for about, well, I couldn't really move this arm for a week or two. It was in a half cast, and then I was able to start moving it, like rehabbing it passively, just moving it like that. And then I was able to start actively exercising the arm, just restore full motion to it. I did mention though that I have been injured due to other things. And really it's kind of a joke with my friends when I tell them how I've been injured, and it's usually because of things that are unrelated to running. Maybe the funniest one was a post Christmas stroll around the mall. I think I was trying to buy myself a Christmas present, and I was trying to walk through one of the biggest malls here in Metro Manila. I was wearing a pair of FitFlops, which I thought were ergonomic and I thought would provide good support for my feet. To my surprise, I sustained an injury on the top of my arch, on top of my foot, and I couldn't shake the ache for a few weeks. So it wasn't because of running, it was because of shopping. Another injury, you might think it's a little bit related to running, but it's really, I think it was just bad footwear. It was almost akin to running barefoot on concrete, and that was because I was wearing a pair of Vibram Five Fingers casually, just walking around, and then I realized that I had to get to an appointment really quickly. I was about to run late, so I sprinted wearing those Five Fingers and sustained yet another injury across the top of my foot, which the ache stayed with me for about 2 months, which is, it was more annoying than anything else. I don't really consider it as a running injury. It was more of stupidity. And then the last acute injury that I ever got was an ankle sprain that it stayed with me for a few months as well. I actually could not do any running or cycling for maybe 2 to 3 weeks. I was just waiting for the swelling in my ankle to go down. And I sustained that ankle sprain from dancing because before I got my gig as a content writer, that's my full-time job. Before I got that gig, I used to teach dance fitness at some of the bigger gyms here in Metro Manila. I landed wrong, ended up spraining the ankle, and I thought it was okay, but then I went cycling maybe 2 days later, and I could not unclip at all. Pivot the I couldn't pivot my ankle outwards, I think. And that's when I knew it was pretty serious. And it was also swollen, so I had to bind it up with some elastic bandages and stay off it for 2, 3 weeks. Those have been my acute injuries. I did have some overuse injuries sustained while running or while training. So I have to come clean. Yeah, it's not exactly true that I haven't sustained any injury during running, I think, now that I think about it, but it's not a major injury. It's not something that has ever kept me away from sport and being active for a long period of time. The first is plantar fasciitis. I experienced my one and only bout with plantar fasciitis when I was training for my first marathon. I think that in the final 3 weeks leading into the marathon, I bumped my mileage up just a little too much. I ran my longest run that week, 37 kilometers. And then, yeah, my arches started aching. And it's the characteristic pain of plantar fasciitis because it's the bottom of your feet have ligaments called plantar fascia. Are they ligaments? They're connective tissue. When you run, you subject that connective tissue to repetitive impact, which causes inflammation, which causes pain. One characteristic symptom of plantar fasciitis is in the mornings when you put your feet down on the floor, it really hurts to stand up. To solve that, I kind of really started my taper early for that first marathon. So I cut my running mileage way down. I started using a different pair of shoes. I mean, I bought a second pair of shoes because I only had one pair of shoes back then. Started using a second pair of shoes, rotating between the two pairs. And that kind of took some of the strain off my plantar fascia, I suppose. It decreased the inflammation so much so that I was able to run quite well in that first marathon. So that was in 2010. That was the 34th Milo Marathon. And that was my first overuse injury sustained during running. The second one was a case of IT band syndrome. And it happened during my second go at Challenge Philippines. Challenge Philippines is quite a challenging half-distance triathlon, or it was because it no longer runs. The run course has a lot of hills and steep inclines, and so I was doing some hill reps with a training camp that I was on. And on one of the descents, I felt a sharp pain in my right knee, on the outside of my right knee. I resolved that by cutting my mileage down again, so starting my taper early for that particular race so that I could run pain-free on the race itself. Part of the reason why I haven't sustained long-term injury is luck of the draw, because throughout my kinetic chain while running, there's no structural problem. It's not like I have excessively weak ankles, although I do have a right ankle that collapses inwards a little bit more than the left ankle. Yeah, I don't have knock knees or knees that point outwards. It's genetics. But also, I think one of the reasons I've managed to avoid injury is that I'm quite lazy. And it means that I don't really try to bite off more than I can chew at any one period of time. I build intensity and mileage quite slowly. Yeah, I follow the 10% rule most times when increasing mileage. I try not to do too many intense sessions on consecutive days. So I space it out with a recovery session or a different kind of session between intense days. I also really love my cross-training sessions with yoga and strength training. And I think that they help strengthen the support muscles in your body that keep your body's motion on the right plane, so you don't move in ways that will cause injury. Most importantly, I don't really like it when something hurts, so I rest when something hurts, which is what I did when I sustained those acute injuries. I rested my foot. I didn't attempt to run through any pain whatsoever. When it came to the overuse injuries, the plantar fasciitis and the IT band syndrome, yeah, I didn't try to run through it. Also, you always want to try to err on the side of too much rest rather than too much work and still being injured by the time race day rolls around. So I don't really have a lot of practical experience when it comes to dealing with injury, but I always try to follow a few rules, and it's based on common sense and also because I have high trust in the expertise of people who know better. So the first thing you should do when you experience any injury or you feel like you've been injured is you need to seek professional medical help. Whether it's your primary care physician who will then refer you to an ortho or a sports med person, just try to get that initial consult about whatever pain you're experiencing, because that will cut a lot of the BS out when it comes to dealing with the injury and how to heal up from it. As I mentioned, don't try to run through the pain. I see so many people on the roads. This one pretty much happened every weekend. There was a race pre-pandemic. I would see young women and young men wearing double knee straps. So a knee strap on each knee, trying to run a half marathon or a full marathon. And they were basically hobbling through that long distance run, when the more sensible decision would have been to skip the half marathon or the marathon and heal up from whatever it was ailing their knees before trying to run those long distances. I make sure that my equipment, which means my shoes, match what I'm trying to do. So I have a neutral foot, so I don't really have a lot of requirements for running. But when I'm doing longer distances, I try to make sure that I have enough cushioning. I always try to make sure that my footwear is the best I can buy at the budget I have and really suits my needs and my running style. And that's really all I wanted to say. I wanted to remind myself that I am not bulletproof, and I shouldn't be making these statements that I've never been injured, because I have. I just don't really remember them. Anyway, guys, if this video entertained you, was informative, please do give it a thumbs up. If you haven't yet, please subscribe to my channel, and I will see you again next time. Bye!